Happy Crypto Week. Bitcoin hit new highs on Monday, as well as lots of drama in DC so far. So let's get into it all. Welcome back to Crypto Corner on Schwab Network. I'm Jenny Horne. Joining us now is Nate Peterson, Director of Derivatives Analysis at the Schwab Center for Financial Research. Nate, just noting that we're taping this segment at around 3 p.m. Eastern Time, things could change as there's been so much back and forth on the crypto legislation front. So where to begin and just catch us up on really what's caught your eye so far this week?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely, Jenny. I know it's, I think I kept on refreshing the news just to see what the status of these bills. And as you mentioned, Crypto Week. So, we've got the Genius Act, Clarity Act, and the Anti-CBDC Act under consideration. On the Genius Act, I believe that they have passed a procedural vote. Now, we know that the Senate already passed it. The House today looks like 215 to 11 that they passed a procedural vote. And so it's making its way towards, there might be some debate on the floor and then eventually to the president's desk. And I think President Trump feels pretty confident that that will get passed. But look, with the Genius Act, we're talking stablecoins. So this is, look what Circle is doing today. Circle is, along with Tether, one of the, dominant stablecoin issuers. And last I saw, the stock was up about 20%. But look, with this legislation, these payment rails, the establishment of this framework, this paves the way for other companies. Big banks like JP Morgan recently said that they plan on offering their own stable coins. And, from the government's perspective, by moving forward and pushing through this legislation, if this legislation is passed and you get more stablecoin issuers, the laws are going to state that you're backed with highly liquid assets like the US dollar or short-term treasuries. So this would help essentially cement the status of the dollar as the reserve currency, and there'd be higher demand for short-term treasuries as more and more of these stable coins get issued. So from the government's perspective, you can see why they're moving forward with this. They want to promote innovation. They don't want to be left behind. They want to back the dollar. From the crypto industry's perspective, it's just another incremental step that basically speaks that, U.S. is becoming the leader for crypto. This also is good for innovation. It's going to be interesting to see with stablecoins if consumers, what the take rate is by consumers, because as consumers, we're so used to using our credit cards on a daily basis, and it's pretty ubiquitous in terms of what venues will take all your credit cards. And so, therefore, these stablecoins are going to have to be offering some incentives in order to elicit some of those consumers over there. So that'll be interesting to watch to see how that develops. Now, on the Clarity Act, I kind of consider this, the everything but stablecoin regulation, or at least it moves in that direction of providing more clarity around the framework for digital assets. It helps define the roles between the CFTC and the SEC. There was some loose kind of definitions around. CFTC said it's a commodity. SEC said yes, but certain products or certain circumstances, it might be a security, and therefore, we'll take it as it comes in terms of who has the authority over crypto assets, and from the law perspective. So this is also just going to be another incremental step that's going to make it easier for innovation, for companies to invest. They're going to know within what framework that they have to work with. So I would say this, assuming it passes the Clarity Act, that's going to be just another incremental step that's going to be kind of validates the crypto industry more. And finally, with the Anti-CBDC, Central Bank Digital Currency Act, basically it states that they do not want the Fed to make their own stable coin. And this has to do with privacy concerns, financial privacy from consumers, and they don't want the Fed to have that information. And of course, this would also be competition for other stablecoins, so it would likely stifle competition and innovation within that space. So we'll see how everything pans out there. It's making its way through the pipes, but I think it's largely expected that all three of these will eventually at some point be passed. We're seeing cryptocurrency, as you mentioned, Jenny, respond favorably. Bitcoin hitting a new high this week. Ethereum breaking out as well.
Okay, and what a great summation of those three bills, as they can get complicated, but as we've all been following, it's those three critical pieces of legislation that we are very heavily watching this week. So great points there to take away from. But now, as you mentioned, Bitcoin at new highs. I mean, Ethereum's also been garnering a lot of attention this week. What are you watching from a technical standpoint on Bitcoin, though, specifically, as it is the behemoth and the name we all tend to watch in regards to the rest of the space?
Yeah, that's right. The world's first cryptocurrency, and there's only one first cryptocurrency. Yes, that is Bitcoin. 122 and change. It might have got to 123. I'd have to go double check. But that was the new high earlier in the week. If we can get a chart of Bitcoin, obviously, thank you. It looks, we're in this uptrend. We have broken out here recently. And on a percentage basis, Ethereum is doing better. We're going to talk about Ethereum in just a minute here. But if you look at the RSI on Bitcoin, if I were to be a bear, I guess, Jenny, in this case, so new highs, bullish. We're in price discovery mode. What is price discovery? Well, the market is attempting to find a fair value for Bitcoin based on all the new information, including this legislation that's making its way through the House, and what price is a fair price for Bitcoin. The invisible hands, the market is figuring that out, but to break out to new highs, that's bullish. However, if I were to be, put a little fly in the ointment, I would point to the RSI, and only that if you look at the two peaks on the right-hand side of the chart in the bottom panel, that's your RSI. Notice that we hit a new high. That's the first peak there on the chart that coincided with a new high in Bitcoin. And then we came down and consolidated. We ran up and made a new all-time high in Bitcoin in terms of the price, but the RSI had a relatively lower peak. So what is that in technical land? That's a negative divergence. Does that mean that we're going to roll over? No, it's just a technical indicator. It's a negative divergence. And by the way, if Bitcoin were to continue to rally and make new highs and then establish a higher high on the RSI, it would negate this negative divergence. But at least I thought I might point it out that that is something perhaps you might put a yellow flag on the chart just to be mindful that when you have a negative divergence, what does that mean, Nate? Well, basically, it could mean that there could be a shift in momentum, or it could be we may be due for some consolidation. But let's take a look at Ethereum, because that's been more impressive. Jenny, up 120% off of the April lows. And we've talked in the past about how it struggled over the past couple of months. See that yellow line, the 200-day simple moving average, struggled a couple times to get above that. But of course, we've broken out here. Why Ethereum is doing what it's doing, I think it's related to stablecoins, because over 50% of stablecoins are using the Ethereum network. So investors, traders, they're drawing the dots, connecting the dots, drawing the lines and saying, hey, this is good for Ethereum if assuming this legislation gets passed, assuming we have more stablecoin issuers. Now, I will point this out, of course. I got to be a little bit balanced here. The RSI is 77. Typically, when you're above 70, that's considered overbought. However, it does not mean that it's going to imminently reverse. And I will point out, if you can look on the chart back in February of 2024, the RSI and Ethereum, after a significant run, ran up to 87. So that just demonstrates that just because you're above 70 doesn't mean that you're going to revert. You can stay overbought and you can get even more overbought. Relative strength is kind of measuring the momentum of this price security, this security against its price, the velocity of its move, so to speak. When you get to extremes, the reason this indicator exists is you could get some consolidation, some digestion, some profit taking because of the significant gains in such a short period of time. So We are in overbought territory, but it doesn't mean that we can't go further.
Okay, Nate, one more question before we let you go. I am curious here of these three pieces of legislation, of course, the technicals behind the phenomenal all-time highs in Bitcoin and the recent run-up we've seen in Ethereum. What are you watching the most closely right now? Because there's a lot of noise to parse through, and I know it's the million-dollar question, but just given your experience, what is standing out to you a bit more than the rest right now?
Well, Ethereum, right now, just in terms of where a lot of the what the price action is speaking. So it's great to see Bitcoin make new highs, but on a percentage basis, it's definitely underperforming Ethereum. Stable coins are meant to be, a significant Web 3.0 advancement within our digital economy. Like I said, we'll see, assuming this passes, how many stablecoin issuers, crop up, how many additional stablecoin issuers crop up, and then we'll see the take rate by the consumers. That's going to play, greatly into Ethereum. But because of that relationship, Jenny, I just think Ethereum, and keep in mind, Ethereum, its all-time high is above 4,500. So, we're at what, 3,300. We're not even at all-time highs. And I'm not suggesting that we're going to get there, but I'm just saying the price action is interesting. It's tying into a fundamental development that's going on in the digital economy right now. So that's what I've got my eyes on, Jenny.
Okay, appreciate that. We will be watching Ethereum as well as everything else, of course, very closely here on the Schwab Network. But appreciate it, Nate Peterson. And that'll also do it for Crypto Corner. Be sure to watch all of our episodes by subscribing to Schwab Network's YouTube channel. I'm Jenny Horne. We'll see you again soon.